Today I'm going to show you the many attempts I've had at a French Connections flare tool, at least making one. If you don't know what a French Connections flare is, they use it on hydropneumatic Citroens. If you look at a normal brake flare, which is what that is, you can see it has a very specific shape. A French Connections brake flare looks like this, and that's quite hard to make apparently. They have a special tool for it, but it costs a lot of money, and I don't feel like putting that out for just one tool. So I decided to make one. Now, I've had various drawings here on how to do it, so I decided to follow those, and I came up with this. Here. This was my first attempt at the tool. 2 aluminum plates that were milled together flat and then drilled using the mill and the drill press, which I have to clean off. Anyway, this would not work because it's made of aluminum, which is very soft, softer than the plunger I made for doing the job. So that wasn't going to work. So I decided to try to make it out of steel, but the only steel I had was a steel bar. So I made one of these. This isn't the one I made. This was a failed one because the drill broke off inside and then decided that I wanted to get a screw stuck in there as well, trying to pop it out. But that's what I made, and it made probably the nicest flare of one of these I've ever made. Right there. That is probably the nicest French Connection flare I've made. The only issue was there was no way to remove the pipe. So I made one where you could remove the pipe, and this one worked extremely well. Where is one from that? I believe that is one of these. There's a line somewhere with it. Anyway, it didn't work very well because it's not centered, really. You can see the drill is not centered in there, and it kinked it when it tried to flare it. So that wasn't going to work. So then I made this one, which is the third rendition. And this one wouldn't work for some reason. I don't think I had it drilled deep enough, and this drill didn't come out properly. I made that one, and they kept coming out like this. This is how they were coming out. That one is not going to work properly. It's too sharp and pointy. So this is my fourth one. I made it just slightly longer, and the way to clamp these together is I'm using a brake tool clamp, because normally you're supposed to press them together and then hammer, or at least hydraulic press. I've been trying to tap it on with a hammer. I think a hydraulic press works better. This plunger deep into here to kind of compress the line into the fittings, which is what I've been doing. And I made this, which works pretty well. I have a flare that looks like this, and this flare will work pretty well. So I think I'm going to continue with these. This tool is good enough. How to make this tool, I will show you right now. I believe this is 1-inch diameter steel bar. You want to cut about 1.5 inches off with your bandsaw. Once you do that, bring that right over to your lathe, face off both ends, drill it with a 3/16 drill. Once you've drilled a nice hole in it, take it back to your bandsaw and cut it right down the middle. Make sure not to cut your fingers. I've done that before. Which hand was that? That didn't end well. You can't really see. I got a massive scar on this thumb because of that. Anyway, once you get that done, take it back to your lathe over there. Drill it out 3/16 again, because that'll open the hole up a bit more, because it will have shrunk a little bit. And then take this drill, which I believe is a 19/32. No, 31/64 drill. And you're going to want to drill it out 591 thousandths. Once that's done, pop it apart, slide your line in about that far. You want it sticking out the top maybe 1/4 inch. Close it together, take a hose clamp, shove a hose clamp on top. Have your hose clamp wrapped around like this. I have to level it out a little bit, so I gotta loosen it and adjust it. There's barely any outward force doing this, but there is a lot of downward force, so a hose clamp is just fine. Now you're gonna wanna shove it on the top of your brake line flare tool that squeezes the line, and you're gonna wanna clamp it together, and then clamp it in a vise if possible, but usually I'll just rest it on top of the vise. Now once this is done, take your plunger, plunge that right on top, and usually it'd be actually better to use a hydraulic press for this, but I like to just hammer it down, it's easier. Right, my brake flare holder didn't want to work properly, so I just shoved the line in a vise. It's a broken line anyway, I shoved it in a vise. But you will end up with something that looks like that. Now we'll go pop it out with the vise and have a look at the flare. Alright, there's my flare. It's not perfect, but it will do the job. Now, I do have to get another one of these, because I think this line was worn out because it wouldn't grab in here. But we can see that it does work pretty well. So there we go. Making a French Connections flare tool on the cheap isn't actually that hard. I mean, it's been 2 days, though, so you gotta basically play around with it and have, like, 1.5 feet of this pipe to spare. But thanks for watching.